Hello everyone, welcome to the Jenkins Infrastructure weekly team meeting. Today we are the 28th of January 2025 and around the virtual table we have myself, Damien Duportal, Stéphane Merle, Mark Waite, Kevin Martins and Bruno Verharten. Jay is off today, he won't join. And as for Hervé, I don't know, sometimes he's available, sometimes he's not, so let's not mark it right now and let's get started. So on the announcement area, the weekly release 2.494 was released without any problem, so cool. And today, the weekly release 2.495 started on time, 2 hours and a half ago, more or less. So we should be able to have it released in the upcoming hours. Next announcement, reminder that next week this meeting has been cancelled, so we will see each other in 2 weeks for that meeting, or earlier for the lucky that go to FOSDEM. Third announcement, we still have the Azure outage marked as in progress. Last week we discussed about, hey, let's focus on migrating to AWS. So we will have to implement in any case the Windows containers. However, I talked earlier today that the acceptance test job haven't failed since a few days on the Maven 8 Windows, which I purposely left on Azure Container Instance, because if we catch someone using JDK 8 and Windows containers, then that means, yeah, that's for a build plugin that should be modernized. And it doesn't prevent using a virtual machine and a more modern JDK or keeping the JDK 8 because JDK 8 is inside the virtual machines. But that's also an indicator for us to have a part of the workload still on ACI. So my proposal is that we should be able to revert the label, spin up a few builds, and if it's okay, we can just say the outage is finished. Is that okay for everyone?
Yeah, so that means we would be switching back to using ACI containers for
Exactly.
for for until the period where assuming that they pass the initial test, then that hey, that there's nothing, no new surprises. Great, I like that.
Exactly. Before reverting the label, we might need a first step that will be add custom labels to the Maven 1721 builds, and we select a few builds, we test them with that specific label, and if it's okay, we revert for everyone. Okay, so that means we will comment and start working on this on that milestone. Anything else on the Azure outage? No question? Okay. So then, just announcement. We had a security advisory plugins only last week. Everything went well, except a minor thing. So we did a post-mortem with Daniel and Kevin. So there has been a minor issue in the GenSec procedure. They have a shell script that check that the update center is up to date to be sure they can continue the next steps. That script was checking the last modified header of a few files in the update center. Problem is that they run it 1, 2, 3, or multiple times, and they assume that the last modified header is the same everywhere and should be up to date, which is not the case when we deal with a distributed system with mirrors. So that's annoyed them, but they were aware because we communicated good enough with them. They were aware that it's clearly something related to the new update center. So Daniel has issued a fix for the next time for them. No action required by us. Mark and I already validated the fix. The fix is um, Daniel could check the whole JSON file, but that's a lot of data to download when they need to go fast, and that doesn't make sense. But the JSON file has inside itself a timestamp that can be checked, which is a source of truth. So the fix is currently also creating a timestamp.txt file, which should be deployed and served. That should be okay. Just a note, we need to double check that this file, once it's merged, is generated and deployed where it is required, meaning it should be served by Apache servers. That's important. If it's not, then we will have to add a special ingress or htaccess rule. So just keep an eye on this one. Another minor things, our runbooks need updates. It was the first time Kevin was performing this step autonomously without anyone leading him or pairing with him. And he had some questions and things to clarify on our runbooks. The only thing that we have to be careful is that CI Jenkins IO runbook duplicates information with the security runbook. So we need to link them each other instead of duplicating. What happened last time when we moved CI from AWS to Azure, we forgot to update security runbook and the GenSec team was annoyed when they were preparing their release. So there is a small set of improvement. Yes, Mark?
Do we have access to the security runbook?
Yes, it's inside
We
our
do.
private
Okay,
repository.
all right, it is good. Okay, I wasn't sure if it was a separate runbook in a separate location, only locked to the security team. Great, thank you.
So the security team have their own shared document, which is private that we cannot access at least today. I don't say we should or shouldn't access, but they have this, and it points to the runbook. So I've written the feedbacks that I had from Kevin. That is a set of the tiny thing. Anyone interested in fixing them is welcome. However, be careful. Each pull request should be validated by Kevin and Daniel before being merged, just to be sure that it convey the proper message. That's all for me on the announcement. Do you have other, Mark? Do you want to raise the Artifactory project as an announcement or
Oh,
later?
yes, yes,
Or
that's a good one. So let's talk about that one. Let me announce it here, and we may talk about it as well. So JFrog has asked us to reduce our artifact storage usage from its current almost 11 terabytes to less than 5 terabytes. That's their sponsorship threshold. So we're going to do that. So they've asked us to reduce from 11 to 5 or less. And we think we see the way to do it, but it's going to require a multi-phase project to do it. So Darren Pope has accepted the assignment to act as the project lead on this one. And Darren is going to work with, we have two Artifactory administrators, Damien and Daniel Beck. I'll ask the security team to temporarily grant Darren admin permission for Artifactory so that he can begin the work on this project. It's intentional. I talked to Vadik about it. It's intentional that there are only two administrators. We want at least two, but we really don't want more than two because of the security risk, right? The artifact repository is absolutely crucial to the Jenkins project. So we don't want anyone to be able to inject anything inappropriate there. So that then will lead us towards the how do we reduce usage, and that we know there will be at least two phases. Phase one, yeah. Yeah, and as far as I know, it was actually greater than 10 terabytes. Did
we
you
are
ever?
at 9.8. I saw the dashboard earlier today.
Oh, you did. Oh, good. That's very. You don't need to show it. I trust you.
Okay,
That's great.
I think I
You have access to it. I do not. So that's perfect. I had seen a screenshot and I thought the screenshot said over 10. So that's wonderful. Thank you.
to be quite honest, I'm more worried by the increased. We are almost at 50 terabyte of data in bandwidth in the
Oh, we're
report. I
back
will
to yeah,
share,
which is
which
probably another
might be the
benefit,
same.
right? It may be caused by the same thing that we're caching more than we should.
Yep. Can you
So
just
so you
remind me the goal they fixed? I didn't.
5 terabytes.
Okay.
Actually less than 5 terabytes. That's stated exactly. And so we know there will be at least two phases. One is to reduce, and this one's a very rapid win of well over 1 terabyte in one shot. Incrementals are never deleted today. And incrementals have thus been accumulating. Incremental artifacts have been accumulating since we started the incrementals multiple years ago. And they really don't need to exist more than 4 to 6 weeks. They just don't. If you need an incremental for more than that time, you should generate a pre-release. You should do something different. So the proposal is we'll delete um, everything, all those incrementals, except maybe the last 4 weeks. That deletion should save us as much as, well, more than a terabyte right there. That one's the easy one. Then the more difficult ones are reducing the size of several of our caches. The JCenter cache, the Atlassian cache, and the one other cache. Oh, and two caches of Repo One, of the Maven Central repository. We really shouldn't need to cache Maven Central. We shouldn't need to cache much more than maybe a few hundred gigabytes of Atlassian's public repository. And right now we're caching over 3 terabytes from Atlassian public. So we've got cache improvements to do, but the cache improvements are more difficult because we have to evaluate what the changes are and how they impact developers of Jenkins plugins and Jenkins core. Sorry, that was a very long. Maybe we should have made that a project topic, Damien. I apologize.
Oh, that's an important one to decrease the the
Yes,
usage.
exactly. And so Darren and I will work together on this, and we'll consult with Damien, consult with the rest of the infra team, consult with the security team, because all of them are actively interested in not doing harm here while we work to reduce our usage. I meet with JFrog tomorrow. They'll share more details, and as I learn more, we'll talk about those greater details at the Contributor Summit if we need to.
And we'll for during the contributor summit.
Right.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks.
Don't forget to track with issues.
Yes,
Otherwise, we will have problems in 10 months.
absolutely. Thank you. Good reminder.
We already have 3 issues you will see on the milestone, which the 3 of them are related to the Atlassian public mirror, and one of them has an actionable. So I think that's something that can be taken immediately. For me, the incremental artifacts looks the easier abstract in an abstract way,
Mhm.
but it does require some prerequisite work to plan this. While here, for the Atlassian public, we already have a first set of consensus of what should we do. So I believe the Atlassian could be also a quick one to get started with.
Yeah, the challenge with the agreed. The Atlassian public, I think we've got an agreement, but what we don't have is testing to confirm that the agreed plan is actually a workable plan. And that's the part that Darren will have to lead us through.
Yes, mm, I have mixed feelings about this because a lot of elements that cannot be tested until it's reality. So that's why I think we could have a brownout eventually.
Right. And we will do brownouts. Absolutely. That will be the pattern.
I'm sorry, I have a mic issue.
Mhm.
Okay, is it better?
Better. Yes.
Sorry. Okay, cool. Thanks for thing. Are there any questions or thing we need to unblock or prepare to help on this topic? Okay, so now let's have a look at the upcoming calendar unless we have other announcements. Nope. Okay. So Tuesday next week we will have the weekly release automatic 2.496 automatically released except for the Docker tag. The day before 5 February, everyone should be back, or at least most of the team should be back home from FOSDEM. Jeremy playout and Mark as release as fallback will be the release lead for the new LTS 2.492.1. We've confirmed earlier today inside the team that both Stefan and I will be available and that we can start early. We don't have any announced publicly security release, so that's good for us. We
So
had one last
on the
week.
start early, you're
Mhm.
okay. You and Stefan are okay that you'll be the ones who launch it because Jeremy does not yet have access to the VPN to do
Yes,
his own launch. Great, thank you.
absolutely. Regarding the upcoming credential expiration, we have a few ones. I've already made the distribution of work, Stefan. Just to let you know, I haven't consulted with you before, that's why, to avoid bad surprises. I've selected the one that you should be autonomous to run. If you are off again, don't hesitate, we will take over, but I propose that spread. The main important one is the repo Jenkins CI certificate, which expires this Sunday in 5 days. We have a new certificate, we need to install it. However, only Kosuke is admin on the brand new JFrog portal. There isn't a mapping as per JFrog support between an administrator of Artifactory and an administrator of the subscription. The only admin is Kosuke because he was the initial person onboarded on support 10 or 9 years ago. I don't know when it was started. And it keep carrying his email and his identity as the main admin of the subscription. So we have contacted the support. They cannot install the certificate by themselves now. We have to do it through the portal in which they have a nice UI to upload the new cert and it's applied immediately. I cannot do it because I see the setting, but I'm in read only. And the support is currently working on granting me the initial access. And if it's okay, I will grant access to Mark or anyone else on the board, so I'm not the only one. I believe Daniel could be, but since he's quite busy, I would prefer someone from the board, so someone not in security or infra. The goal is to avoid a single point of failure like it is today with Kosuke. Uh, for the joke, you cannot use an email with a plus sign on the whole JFrog platform. Yes. Uh, uh, just a second. Sorry. So we are waiting from the support. They confirmed 1 hour ago that they escalated to the teams, and their goal is to grant me access as soon as possible. Uh, so yes, now we have to wait. Uh, I'm confident they should be able to grant us access. I've changed my email, removed the plus sign, and I also asked them to contact the team in charge of that platform to say, hey, a valid email can have a plus size, otherwise you are not following the RFC. Any question on this one?
So the when you and I generated the certificate, we generated it for 1 year rather than 3 years. Was there a,
Yes,
and that was because we like to refresh it every year, or I didn't ask you then.
absolutely. It's a pleasure to rotate credentials. No, because if there is in any way a takeover, if we have to revoke the certificates, that can that only rely on the ability of the client-side web browser to follow the revocation list, which is not something really common on most of the web browser or HTTP clients. So if the certificate is stolen or if JFrog platform is burnt, having an expiry date is good. Of course, it would be better to have every month or every 3 months, but the effort, even if we have the ability to do it ourselves, is still annoying. Even though we could start discussing Let's Encrypt with the new feature in that portal, but without automation, we have to find the right balance between changing quite often but not too often, otherwise it's a pain. Does it make
Very good.
sense and does it answer the
It
question?
does. You're striking a balance between safety and annoying repetitive work. Excellent. Good. Or repetitive work.
Uh,
Maybe not annoying, but repetitive work.
so just for the others, the access to the GoDaddy account in which the certificate has been authored is available from Mark and I with encrypted credential and 2FA. 2FA to avoid takeover, hostile takeover, and Mark and I to be sure that I'm not the spoff here. Maybe we could extend. I don't mind having the discussion, especially since there are no credit card. So I believe we could add Stefan and a fourth person to be sure, such as Tim or Daniel or Vadek. If that's okay, we can discuss it at the first time as well. But yeah, the goal is to be sure that we can renew that certificate next year without requiring admin accesses. Which, by the way, start to be interesting for the infra team. You can be admin on the JFrog portal without being admin on Artifactory.
Oh, interesting.
And
Okay.
that one will clearly please Vadek and Daniel. That means
Right.
in that
Separation of
case,
privileges. Separation of
exactly,
very nice.
exactly.
Good.
So yeah, we will discuss that once we will be sure that the certificate is renewed. One in which, as admin, I'm the only one who can do it, or eventually Doreen in case of emergency, if he's granted the access. We have the Artifactory admin token used by the repository permission updater to do things on the API. That one expired the 6th February. I plan to update it later today. 16 February, we have two automated Azure SP expiring, one for the Jenkins release that we can renew whenever we want. I'm gonna take this one because I'm not entirely sure that Stefan has access to the vault. Stefan, if it's okay, we'll create the issue and we will renew it, both of us.
Perfect.
Eventually, I will let you try and I will be there to take over if needed. Because I'm not sure, so I will want this to be known. And the other is one that you already did for CertCI recently, and that's for Trusted, and that's a classical one.
Yeah.
May I ask you to create the issue and put it on the current milestone?
Yes.
Cool. I've written instance identity. I think it might be a bit short for this one, but the goal is that we could get rid of that credential by working on automatic authentication for trusted CI. That's a topic to have in mind. Next one is digital OSN PAT. This one you can do it because with a shared MFA, you already done it, I think,
I
from
think I
scratch.
did already, yes.
Cool.
And
So
the VPN CRL, I did that 3 or 4 times.
exactly. That's what I remember. So is it okay for you to create the
Yeah,
issue and took these issues? Cool.
perfect.
I haven't found other credential expirations. If you saw Thumb, please create an issue immediately so we can be sure that we don't forget them. Any question about expiration of credentials? Two, three, no. Okay. Next major event in a few days, we will gather in Brussels for the Jenkins Contributor Summit, and then a teeny event during the weekend named FOSDEM, just as a consequence. That's all for the calendar. Anything else on calendar? Okay, so let's have a quick look at the budget, the consumption. On the Azure CDF paid account, we have forecast at 4.3. We have consumed today 3.8, so we are inside our limits. The last week we saw an increase in DNS request that was costing a bit more than usual, but looks like this one has been drowned in the normal and it decreased, so we are good. No actions required and no warnings. On the Azure sponsorship account, we have consumed 11.2K. Yes, bomb built. I don't have anything else to say. BOM is now huge. My tests show that we have between 8 and 900 parallel tests, and we had ACP issues, so we had to retrigger builds, and that's cost a lot.
Yeah, so retrigger builds means we ran 5 times last week in order to get to a release. So yes, we were expensive, and very grateful to Microsoft for donating because that was expensive. But Damien, it looked like you may have found this SNI change that
I will
might help
discuss
us.
this, yep,
Oh, good.
a bit
Thank you.
later, but in any case, we now need to move to AWS, and we will have to do it in February. Otherwise, we will absolutely exhaust the amount of credits on that account. So we might reach a threshold in which we will say we move, even if it fails the build on CI Jenkins IO, and we know it's annoying, but we will have to. That's all for this one. On DigitalOcean, nothing unusual. A slight increase, but it's because we are using it as a fallback for the update center. I forgot to check the AWS usage on CloudBees, but last time I checked it, we were clearly under the 500s. We don't do a lot of activity anymore here. And finally, we have started to shift the gears on the sponsored account for AWS. We have passed our first 1K monthly. That's a consequence of the test we run, bomb builds, but test. I can write it. That's all for the budgets. Any question? Nope. Yes, I'm dreaming of t-shirts to offer to Darren and all the bomb releaser that will be bomb, bomb, bomb. Plenty of jokes here. Okay, let's have a look at the task we were able to finish during the past milestone. First on the support area. So there's been a user blocked for Jira issue spam. We also have a user who reported that the SPF was failing when sending email on using Jenkins.io, because in fact we had 2 TXT records on DNS while we should only have 1. So we have merged them following the RFC, and it's working, confirmed by the user. That has been the opportunity to also fix the long-standing issue requested by Vadek. He wants to send email from the Jenkins cert bot, and we had to tune the SPF record to allow the application he was using. So not confirmed by Vadek, but the documentation he showed has been implemented. Now he will confirm by reopening if he has an issue when he will be able to test. We have added Jeremy playout as part of the release lead, so it was a few permission. The last step was to move the permission out from the repository to the team. So now we are waiting from him and Ildefonso and Montero and Cathy Chan to also accept the invitation to join the team. That doesn't change the permission effectively because the team only grants right that repository. They already had rights. But nothing else on our side. They have to accept the invitation. Same permission. So we have removed the permission for Vandit on the stats Jenkins IO repository as requested and discussed. A bit of artifact caching proxy. So that issue was opened by Darren a few weeks ago, and it was dangling somewhere. He had issue last Friday. I had the same, and I was able to fix these issues. It looks like that sometimes on JFrog, they suffer from a kind of rate limit from the AWS S3 buckets used to serve part of the artifact. We do not, there is a feature that Nginx, when dealing with TLS backends, should have, and that wasn't enabled. By enabling it, it looks like that allows not to suffer from the rate limit. It still has to be determined in reality, but that improved things immediately on my test. So I'm assuming it should be okay. I've closed the issue because the last bomb builds were successful. Please, Mark, can you think with Darren? I told him privately to think to comment on the GitHub issue and reopen it or create a new one with details if he has instability on the bomb. We need this information so we can find the answer.
Will do.
Thanks. During the FOSDEM, we will discuss a proposal by Basil about thinking about getting rid of ACP and instead using a kind of workspace caching. It requires discussion because in CI Jenkins IO is public. The cache poisoning is a real risk that we don't have with ACP because with ACP we control the destination of the upstream. However, his proposal will be way better for performances and for retries. So that's a discussion to have that could limit the amount of maintenance we spend. On the keep platform up to date, so we had a certificate rotated for usage Jenkins IO. As I told Stefan, no issue except that the DNS are failing on that machine and also on Census Jenkins IO. Census doesn't have a lot of activity, doesn't even have TLS, but for usage that prevented Cellbot to renew the certificate. So I've put the required steps inside the issue. I'm not sure why the DNS is failing, but if you restart the systemd resolver, which is the DNS client inside Ubuntu, that solved the issue. Keep in mind that this virtual machine will have to be moved on DigitalOcean this quarter out of the CloudBees AWS, so the problem will solve by itself because it's related to the network in which it runs. Jay was able to finish a Terraform tracking that wasn't an easy one, and we successfully demonstrate that it upgraded the node operating system that we use on the new Kubernetes cluster. So good job. And finally, we were able to finish the work on CI Jenkins IO migration to AWS. We can now have Linux agent container running fully in AWS. We ran 2 successful bomb builds after the ACP problems and other problems documented on the issue. The bomb runs between 2 hours and 40 minutes and 2 hours and 15 minutes, 50 minutes, which is the same time as what we have currently on Azure. So that shows that it's a few minute difference that's good enough. Unless someone objects, we can find optimization in the future, but that shows that the IO and CPU and Carpenter and everything is good enough for us to prepare the change. We had an issue closed as not planned. Someone that has to raise question in community Jenkins IO. Okay, I'm catching my breath now. Are there any question, precision things to clarify on the closed issue? Nope. Okay, so let's go on the work in progress. Top priority is AWS. Still work in progress. Right now, the focus is on the testing the VM agents. We can spin up virtual machine agent, both Linux and Windows. We have the same configuration and labels as on CI Jenkins IO today. That work very well. However, first, we haven't looked at the performances. Second, ATH is failing for funny thing. We introduced a Java underscore home node agent environment variable, and that one is passed by the Docker run inside step on which overrides the Java home inside the container. And since the container has its own Java home, clearly it broke the build. We also caught a few errors in the pipeline library associated to the Docker builds, the one that use the login. So we have a set of minor hiccups, and artifact caching proxy hasn't been tested yet on the VMs. It's reachable, that's the last test we did 2 weeks ago. Now it has to be tested for real, with a real build, and that need a bit of configuration. So that's where the whip is. And performances. So right now, focus is on ATH and Jenkins Infra Test plugin to compare performances when using VM agents to the same on CI Jenkins IO. Once that one is okay, we'll be able to move forward on the testing on the Jenkins core build, which tests almost every kind of agent. So the controller VM is now using its own domain name. That was a condition for success for the Linux container. Now it's stuck. However, we have also the Datadog plugin to upgrade on the real CI Jenkins IO before the migration. Otherwise, that will break everything. So that's why I moved this one. I thought it was a quick one, but in fact, yeah, that require planning. Oh, my bad. EC2 plugin suffers from regression on its last version. I'm working with the pull request author who will most probably test early on AWS CI Jenkins IO. But please be know that there are issues. For us, it's on Windows agents only because they use SSH. But users reported bugs on Linux agent as well. So right now we have downgraded the EC2 plugin version until we have a fix. Any question on CI Jenkins IO move? Okay, so as we said, on the support part, the outage, let's retry using ACI for now. No more errors. So that issue should be kept open until it's fixed or migrated. Stefan, it's not by priority, but since I assign you this one with your acceptance, you're not volunteer, you're not being design volunteer. Can you give us a heads up on what's the status for the crawler failing due to AWS and Cloudflare incompatible?
Sorry, I forgot to unmute. Yes, in fact, the problem is an update of the AWS CLI tool that now embeds some control of signature, and that new version is not supported correctly by Cloudflare R2 bucket, and we do use AWS CLI to handle the propagation. So the quick fix was to revert to the old version of AWS, but we cannot stay on the old version everywhere just for the crawler. So we choose to have both installation of the two version of AWS on our Packer images, so every agents. So the default AWS CLI tool will be the last one, followed by update CLI. And we pin one version, which is the one working with Cloudflare, that will be used by a manual call by the script of the crawler. So for now, I worked on the pull request, providing the two versions, the pinned one and the last one, and now I will have to work on the crawler to have the correct code for the version of AWS, which is the pinned one. Oh,
Thanks.
and I need to track the pinned version patch. Forgot that.
So yeah, so we could benefit from security release if any is out of. Cool. Any question? Okay, so next issue. That's a user who requests that CI Jenkins IO not to build commits that has skip CI on their commit message. We explained that we usually use a pull request with label, but looks like they use a different process than pull request for that. That's a legit thing that should require only installing a plugin. Mark, last week you said that plugin is tiny and should not make any risk. So it's a matter of installing it on CI Jenkins IO and setting it up.
Yeah,
Uh,
and more exploration has shown that there are multiple plugins that implement this feature, and
hmm.
I'm not yet personally sure which of them is the better choice. So I'd say for the moment, well, so I think it needs a little more exploration to be sure that we agree, yes, the plugin we choose to do this is the right plugin for the way the user has described what they want to do. So I think they want a specific string inside a commit message should be the trigger point, right? Should be the decision condition, the filter condition. And so, but I think there's the reason I say this is there's a plugin that has not been maintained in 5 or 6 years that implements this for GitHub. And I think there's one that does it without being GitHub specific. So we've got multiple candidates.
Okay, thanks for the explanation. To be quite honest, this one stay right now, but we can, yeah, we have too much things to discuss on for them. So right now it stay. We will evaluate if it has to stay or go back to the whole of the yes, we can, but we don't have time
Yeah,
issues.
actually, I would say for this week, I'm okay if it's out of the milestone, right?
Yeah,
Because
it's a 2 weeks milestone,
oh,
that's why.
got it. Okay, got it. Thank
Next one is issues with Gatsby deployment. Chris got info from Gavin. So yeah, looks like the Gatsby thing never worked and it was pushed in production while it was still in proof of concept. So it was rushed or I don't know. But Gavin said, yeah, it's never really worked. So that means maybe Stories website might have to be changed. I remember Gatsby as was selected to allow Alisa and other non-technical profile to eventually have a CMS somewhere. Uh, I don't know. I'm not sure to be able to read, but Chris has information. So right now it's on Chris. If she's not able, she will let us know if she's not able to take this over. No action required on infra team for now. And finally, an update on the stats. So Kosuke did, oh, okay. I need to buy myself fingers. Did upload stats from 29 October up to 25 January and fixed his VPN. So we should have automation back for now. Please note there is a new issue opened by team about that's something we plan to have a face-to-face discussion about how can we prepare the next step on how to automate that process or remove it from out from Kosuke basement so we don't suffer from SPOF. We are now waiting from Andrew. So the thing is, Andrew just moved to New York City. He has a brand new flat since last week. So, and it has a yeah, temperature issue, let's say. I'm not sure where is the big machine handling the next step. So that gets the data pushed by Kosuke on usage Jenkins VM. Do something with a big PostgreSQL local instance on a big machine, and then upload data to Infra statistics repository on the GH page branch. I haven't seen commits. I poked Andrew, but clearly he might not be able to do it in the 10 days. But so the question remains, how can we automate out from Andrew? I and he did not had time to share the knowledge. That part should be easily handed over to the infra team because the data that is manipulated is already anonymized by Kosuke. So that one should be easy to get out of Andrew, not a basement anymore, but a big flat, I hope. Uh, we need to find how to retrieve both processes into the infra. So I've commented once Andrew will have pushed the data, the stats Jenkins IO website will be done. I remember a team that started to fix some element in a Golang CLI built by Andrew. Maybe we don't need the big setup right now, and Andrew already did most of the work. I didn't have time. I think I will try with team this weekend. Any question on the support part? Okay, so next on the keep platform up to date, we have the SSL certificate renew part. So we are waiting from JFrog. Waiting from JFrog. Stefan, can you give us a heads up on the status of the JDK patch campaign, please?
Yes, I'm processing right now for the 4 GDK version on the Packer images. I merged the 4 of them, and now I'm waiting for the main build to go through and then to tag and produce a tag for the Packer images. We will then be ready to propagate them, but we have a lot of other area to deal with, not only Packer images. Everything is in the issue, so step by step.
So I'm impressed that we're making progress even though the Alpine images are not yet available. So our images are not dependent on an Alpine-based JDK. We don't have any specific dependency ourselves for Alpine to get the most recent. That's nice. I like that.
Not on the Packer image. We have an issue somewhere, I think it's Jenkins Infra, with the fact that the 11 version will never be available for the S390X. So we need to dive
Okay.
deep a little in there.
No, I think you may be misremembering. It's the Java 8 version will never be available for System
Java
390.
8. Okay,
Yeah, and it's not a
I'm not
not
sure.
a
I think it's the okay. We'll have to check on the issue, but there is one not available for A390.
and there are some that will eventually be available that may not yet be available on System
In
390,
fact, our
right?
daily manifest is checking for each of them, and the condition is, can I find the binary? And there's only one version where the binary is not the condition is not okay,
Oh,
and
good
the
catch.
condition is for F390X.
Good, good catch. I think it's something that Jay and I forgot to change and update CLI tracking because the agent in which we have the GDK is only using 11, 17, and 21 as for today. I clearly remember that we should have removed GDK 8 or stop tracking it. So you can proceed and remove the 8 part on
I'm
this
not
one.
I'm not sure at all it's the 8 one. I need
Mm.
to check.
Okay, worth checking. And by the way, if you update CLI manifest, there are source and condition available,
Yeah.
native one.
Oh,
That means we can get rid of most of the shell script that are doing the
cool.
checks.
Yeah, it's for the GTK
Interesting.
tools, and it's GTK 11.
Okay. Um, by the way, last week we wanted to wait a bit to check. It looks like on the Jenkins infra part, we are tracking all the GDK everywhere. If pull request doesn't come by, that means either an issue like Stefan mentioned, it's not available yet, or Stefan also cooked the build on one of the repository failed due to network issue or whatever, but it runs
Didn't
only
rate
once
limit.
a week, rate limit. So that means we should have to make it run a bit more often. It's not a problem and that doesn't need immediate action as for today. But yes, good to know. It's not because we are not tracking it. And as per Bruno's message, everything on the Jenkins CI images is good. We are tracking everything everywhere, right? So yes, we are tracking the GDK updates. That's good news. That's part of the audit we wanted to have last week. Next steps, release, and then tools. Stefan, by the way, there are no blockers if we don't have updated JDKs on S390X tools. We can update all the others. The only constraint is that we have to release the Packer image and deploy it first. And then you can
Yeah,
update.
that's the first step. My problem is that the pull request is not created by update CLI because the condition is not met. So I need to check what will be the impact for S390 and provide for the rest, even
Just
for
stop
GDK later.
tracking on S390 for now and deliver everywhere else. Yeah.
That's exactly what I mean.
Well, and I look at the Temerin site there, the S390 version of JDK 11 is in progress, but of the 5 or 6 check boxes that they usually check, only one is actually checked. The others show in progress. So it's, for me, it's indeterminate. Good idea then to stop tracking System 390 for Java 11.
Yeah, we should track it separately.
Thanks. So let's continue on this one. That's okay.
Yeah.
I'm reporting for Jay since he's off, and then he will be traveling to Brussels. So Carpenter release, we raised an update CLI issue. That's a weird one due to Helm in OCI requiring logging out. Yes, that doesn't make sense. But it's important to mention it. The Helm chart are more and more provided and exposed using OCI instead of HTTP web service, which means your Helm client will download an OCI image from a container registry, Docker Hub, or in that case, Amazon Container Registry. And the OCI image with the layers is the equivalent of a zip file with an index and data. It's a zip file of zip files. That's exactly what a container image is done. So the thing is, by switching from HTTP request to download a container without a container engine, but download a container image and unpack it, you need to access the OCI registry. And most of them now use a GWT token for anonymous access. When you use a native client, which is not HTTP, it means the native client in charge of downloading the layers in parallel for efficiency will first issue an anonymous token valid for 5 or 10 minutes, and then will authenticate with the anonymous GWT token. In the case of the Carpenter Helm chart, but that's also the case now with cluster autoscaler. So whatever choice we made, we would have the issue. When update CLI tried to retrieve the OCI, it met with an error unauthenticated or forbidden, I don't remember. That require, as per the documentation, to run docker logout ecr.something or Helm file logout. Update CLI should be able to handle those cases. So that's a fit. Not sure if it's a bug or feature request, but it has been reported by Jay on update CLI projects, and Olivier has been provided with reproduction case. Jay found a nice trick, on short term. He will run an update CLI source command that will run the logout, and then he will retrieve the Helm version with a dependency between both. So we run one and then the other. That work.
So really, he's doing an explicit log out before making the request.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
That's
That's
in their
inverted from what I'm used
documentation.
to, right? Usually it's you log in because they want to know who you are. Interesting. Thank
Exactly. So yeah, that work. And now whip on cleaning up manifest. As far as I remember, he had to push some code, but he didn't have time. It was weekend for him. So that issue is almost there and will be most probably finished in the upcoming days. And then the AWS load balancer, same as above. So you need to transplant. Every Amazon Helm chart are now using OCI and suffer from the same behavior everywhere. Why did I give details? Is because the most of the charts that we are using on Kubernetes management are now marked as deprecated when using HTTP web server. We will need to change our Helm files where we download the list of repository in which we download. It has to be changed to an OCI one. We have to do it, otherwise one of these days we will do it in emergency because Kubernetes management will fail, of course. Yes.
So, and does the Jenkins Helm chart need the same kind of change?
No, it's related to the choice of the Helm chart providers. Using an HTTP web server stays. That's the default on Helm. It's just that the provider of these charts, as they suffer from a lot of bandwidth download due to HTTP request, it's way more optimized to have an OCI image for
Got it.
them
Okay, so
because you use caching and on layers and stuff, so it's easier.
got it. All right, that makes sense. So this is a production use of Helm for our use in production deploy. Got it. Thank you.
Exactly. If I make the comparison with the update center, it enable using non-consistent storage behind as a backend. When you have an HTTP server and you want to make it highly available, you must be sure that you have the same file everywhere, and it will use POSIX calls to read and serve the files. Nginx, HTTP has the same behavior. If you use a container registry, the container registry does not assume POSIX for the storage system. It can use an Amazon S3 bucket or any kind of storage like this one, which clearly decrease the cost and the complexity because you can scale it at low cost. Okay, so that's all on the Terraform updates. The last one for Jay is learning Groovy pipelines and libraries. Nothing else to report. Then Artifactory quickly. The 3 issues I mentioned earlier, Mark. So I can remove the first one since we discussed it. So these are issues. The first one is the most important that track the Atlassian public mirrors tuning. And sorry, only 2 issues. And the second one is will have the same impact once it will be solved. It is the same root cause. Finally, word on the update center. We still have to decommission some elements. We will need to think about enforcing TLS after the next LTS release is released. So after the 5 February, we will plan middle February to enforce TLS. That will be okay because user, if they don't choose one of the 2 latest LTS line or not weekly, that means they are running a Jenkins instance which is more than 3 or 4 months old, and they have a solution. They will be able to go in their update center settings and change the URL to HTTPS by themselves. And we have messages and we have everything required. For us, the interest is that we will remove 7 running pods in the infrastructure, and that will decrease by half the configuration for mirror bits. So clearly it's interesting. We still have sometimes few HTTP 404. It's new. It looks like it comes from archive Jenkins.io, but I checked a bit earlier today, and it looks like we don't have log collection by Datadog from archive Jenkins.io. I don't know if it's a mistaken configuration or not enabled, so I cannot conclude if it's really archived and where does the error come from. I can only see that I cannot find any HTTP 404 access log error anywhere from Cloudflare, from Mirrorbits, or from archive. But I cannot see any access log at all from archive, so that looks like it needs to be confirmed. The amount of HTTP 404 error is, I mean, the order of magnitude is 1 for a billion requests. So it has to be solved, but it's not really a top level issue. That's all for the update center and work in progress. Any question, clarification? Nope. Okay. So on the new issues to triage, we will need to discuss during FOSDEM about Kosuke's basement. Deploy Jenkins prototype on Netlify. We will discuss that with Jan Farachik. So the goal is, should we, and is it needed to have a Netlify website that is built and deployed from Jenkins Infra GitHub repository so that Jenkins prototype can be updated often? Update Center 4.4 is delayed. External users struggling to submit story to stories Jenkins IO. That's the Gatsby problem. I don't know why it's duplicated. Maven Central artifacts are being downloaded from repo Jenkins CI. Clearly, that will be on Darwin area, Darwin and Mark. I'm sure it will be solved once they will have solved the storage problem.
I think while
Yep.
we're working on repo, we want to solve it, even if it's unrelated, we want to solve it. Yeah.
Yep. To Darwin and Mark. CI Jenkins IO issue, the two new issue, I'm starting to work on them. The ECR pull-through cache will be required for testing virtual machine agents once we have finished the ACP part, because it's required for pulling Docker image and authenticating. ACI agents as well. We know Carpenter support Windows. We need to add the Windows container agent because ACI doesn't exist on Amazon. So these are the two next in line. So add it to the new milestone, that first block. That one, let me remove it. We had a request to create build for Jenkins CI WinP on release on CI server. So that was the initial request. As per Basil notes on the WinP project, we might be better to add the signing certificate somewhere on CD only for this one. That's something that will be discussed during FOSDEM, and we will make a decision and comment on the issue. Because we have two valid ways, each one has its pros and cons, and each one has its own security issues.
So to be sure I understand that, the idea is we might move that sensitive certificate into a GitHub secret and use it, or some sort
Yeah.
of, okay, and then use it there.
Exactly. Advantage, it will just require one Maven environment variable setting on the repository, and we can control who has access. Risk is having the signing certificate in GitHub
Right, right. If they're
instead of Azure Vault, which is the same behind the
right,
scene.
right. Ultimately, we've got the signing certificate has to be stored in some cloud, some cloud location. Today, it's in an Azure Vault, and yeah. Okay, thanks for the clarity.
And on the other way, it's release CI, but that means accessing release CI. So we decrease the area, but we don't have a lot of maintainer and WinP. Or dissociating even more build CI and CD process. Yeah, that's why the discussion is needed. Okay.
So
What?
now, and sorry, I've got to be sure I understand it. If it were stored in GitHub as a secret, can that secret be used by a release.ci.jenkins.io job? No, it has to be done
No,
as
exactly.
GitHub
Either it's
action,
on Azure Vault for usage by release CI for the CD
or
process,
it's
or
a secret in
GHCD.
GitHub, and then we really should use it with GitHub Actions.
Exactly. Same, the new scope bucket, yet another package distribution required by Valentin. We will meet Valentin and discuss. The three other issues are going to be delayed. We don't have time, and they are not blockers. I want to mention two others. So we have replace account tab. I'm keeping that as triage, but we should start discussion during FOSDEM. If it's the case, we will move it to the current milestone. And we have the whole JDK 21 runtime change. I started to poke the poor Stefan. Yeah, Monday is back from 1 week off, and I'm already on his neck. We will have to think about this one. Most probably, my proposal is that it stay on triage. We won't be able to work on this until 11, but we should work on this in February. It's not that much work. It's just Right now, Stefan is checking on the JDK passed as a build tool, so he's currently checking all of these elements. Next step will be the configuration we use for specifying JDK on agent templates and on controllers. That's all. Is that good for everyone? Okay, I think that's all for me. Are there other questions, or am I able to free you?
See everyone in Brussels.
Stopping screen share. See you everyone in
Okay,
Brussels.
except Kevin. Sorry, we know you won't be there.
Yeah.
We'll miss you.
I'll miss everyone
For
too.
sure.
I'm bummed.
I'm stopping recording then.